Kenosha has been part of many people's lives. The city was part of automotive culture with American Motors and Chrysler. It produced Hollywood greats Orson Welles, Don Amici, Dan Travanti, and currently Mark Ruffalo. Historically, it has been between two big cities, so often overlooked. I'm Lori Minetti, host of Builder Showcase on Fox 6, an actress currently working on a project at Memories Dinner Theater in Apple Holler, and a performer with David Elvis Kirby and the Rat Package Cabaret Troupe. As a Racine native, I have fond memories of our grandparents taking us to Ogie Thompson's, Crocs, and Ray Radigan's. Kenosha is a great city for families, and hopefully the future will bring more memorable experiences.
Hi, my name's Phil. I'm a retired auto worker and a grandfather of 16 children. Five children, 16 grandchildren, and I live here in Wisconsin near the lake, and I tell people how I live is if I go 4 blocks south, I'm in Illinois. If I go a block east, I'm waist deep in Lake Michigan. And I worked in the car factory for my entire career. You know, I did other things when I was young, but when I got sufficiently mature, I went to the auto industry, and I worked in Detroit for Ford and for General Motors, and came to Wisconsin, where I worked for American Motors, which then became Chrysler Corporation. I'm a few years retired now, and I love it. I love it here, and I love the seasons and people, and I'm a big booster for my area. I really like where I live, and our town's changed quite a bit in the last few years. The factory where I worked closed down. In my early years here, I welded car bodies together, and toward the end of my career, I assembled engines. And the town was a sort of a factory town, lots of factories, and it smelled like a factory town. It was a lovely place, and I knew thousands of people. I worked with thousands of people. And so I really liked that. I tell people sometimes it felt like working in a beehive or an anthill. I think I prefer a beehive. And I really liked it. And you know, since the turn of the century, the factories mostly have left. They're gone, and there might be a few small ones, but most of the big factories around closed. And I really miss my career and miss the people I worked with. But our town now is becoming more artsy, more diverse, more of a bedroom community, and it's remarkable. We've got a whole new environment. We've turned around, and we live about equidistant between Chicago and Milwaukee, and that gives us the comforts and the activities of large cities and employment opportunities, but yet we got a small town feel here. You know, it's a medium-sized city with a small town feel. I tell people one of the first things I noticed when I moved here in the 1980s was that everybody seems to be related in one way or another. My joke was that I was out jogging one day. This is a liberal interpretation of mine, what I said, but I was out jogging one day, and I told a secret to someone on the north side of town, jogged to the south side of town, and somebody came up and told me the very thing I'd said 15 minutes earlier, and I thought, wow, word travels fast. Everything is connected. Everyone is related here. So yeah, I really like it here, and I'm having a good time. Summertime right now, and getting ready for the summer holidays, and we have lots of festivals in our town. Music almost every night of the week, either indoors or outdoors. And it's a year-round thing, but especially in the summertime. We're right on the lakefront, and I can't think of a more ideal place. In my youth, I traveled a lot, lived a lot of different places, but I really like where I live now.
Well, hello. My name is Dan Sticka, a lifelong Kenosha resident. In fact, all 79 plus years. Wonderful city of Kenosha. I do various activities. I volunteer at a number of things. In fact, I am retired, and as of now, I volunteer at the Kenosha Public Museum as a greeter on Saturday afternoons from noon to 5. So if you're not doing anything, why don't you stop on down and we'll chat a little bit, okay? I'm also on a board member of the Friends of the Library. I'm also on the Kenosha Community Media Board. We do a number of things. In fact, I do a number of things. I'm say, I'm also a book author. I want to bring that point into play. I've written a couple of books. I'm going to share the books with you. One of the books is entitled "When Lincoln Met Wisconsin's Nightingale," and the book itself revolves around the Civil War. In Kenosha now, we have a elementary school by the name of Harvey Elementary. Well, the namesake of the book, Wisconsin's Nightingale, is none other than Adelaide Cordelia Harvey. Her husband, Lewis Powell Harvey, was a governor of Wisconsin. He took office 1862. The Battle of Shiloh had taken place April of that year, and he went down to visit the wounded soldiers on board these hospital ships in the Tennessee River. While he was down there, he's transferring from one hospital ship to another, and in the middle of the night, raging rainstorm, he fell overboard and drowned. What a tragic circumstance that was. When his wife got over this traumatic experience, she was then appointed as a sanitary agent for the Sanitary Commission. And by virtue of her being First Lady, she had access to all the hospitals and all the camps. And after visiting these things, she saw all the travesties that occurred within these camps and on the battlegrounds. She came back to Wisconsin and, along with some of the other women from the state, got together and decided we have to bring these soldiers back. It's terrible out there. And what we should do is build some hospitals here in Wisconsin, primarily for the walking wounded. Well, she visited President Lincoln a number of times in the White House, and his main objection was once they leave, they'll desert. Well, she said, dead men cannot fight, or will they desert? Which was an understatement at that time, but realizing that this is 1862, 63, women couldn't vote actually until 1920, and she knew she was overstepping her bounds. But the last visit that she actually met with the president, he did relent and indicated to her that authorization was given for 3 hospitals here in Wisconsin: Milwaukee, Madison, and Prairie du Chien. Once these hospitals were in existence, it ended the shortcomings of the war effort as far as soldiers going back in, healthy soldiers. In fact, the hospitals themselves were used for the walking wounded, not necessarily anybody else that was immobile. But and then later, the hospitals were used as orphanages for the children of the slain soldiers. All right, that's enough of that book. You can pick this up anywhere. It's on sale at the History Center. It's on sale at the Civil War Museum. It's on Amazon. So make sure you go out there and check it out. Check the copy out. Once again, the author is in the house. The other book that I have is entitled the Rhodey Center for the Arts, looking back and looking ahead. Now this book takes us back to 1891, and it relates to the property of where the present Rhodey Opera House, Rhodey Theater is located on 56th Street, just east of 6th Avenue. I take us back to 1891 when the first building that went up was entitled the Rhodey Opera House. And I list whatever entertainment occurred during that time frame. In 1896, little tragedy occurred. The building burned down. They were supposed to have had an usher's party the previous night. No definite circumstance regarding what had happened there, but nevertheless, the building did burn down. Well, it was rebuilt. And once again, all the entertainers that appeared in there appear in the book. In 1926, the Saks Amusement Company, a major amusement company out of Milwaukee, purchased the building. Well, the building itself was not big enough to suit their needs. So what they did was tear that building down. We're talking about a $500,000 building torn down. And the building that was put up then was called the Gateway Theater, and it opened up in December of 1927. And once again, the book itself lists all the entertainers that appeared in there, both on stage and also in the movies. An interesting side note here that in 1939, the Wizard of Oz appeared in the movie at the Gateway Theater, and this appeared before it appeared actually. In fact, it was the first place to appear in Wisconsin, which is a very tribute to Kenosha here. But in 1963, then the building actually changed hands again. It becomes the Lake Theater. And entertainment appeared there, mostly movies. In 1973 or thereabouts, it changed again, becoming the Lake 1 and 2, meaning that the existing theater was subdivided into two separate theaters. And it actually remained that way until, it remains that way now, actually the building itself, if you go in there. But then roughly around 84, the Lakeside Players basically took over the building, and it's a local amateur production company, and they do perform live performances on stage. And if you've never been down there, please check it out. It's really fantastic. I usher down there on occasion, and it's just a fun venue. So once again, this is my little testimonial for the beautiful city of Kenosha, Wisconsin. Hopefully that you enjoyed what I had to share with you, and hoping that you do come on down and check out some of the beautiful amenities that we have within our wonderful city. Once again, this has been Dan Sticka. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dr. Mike Thompson. I am a Kenosha native. I am a retired podiatrist, and I continue to live in Kenosha, and I really appreciate our community as much as I've seen it grow over the years. To give you a little background on me, I graduated from Mary D. Bradford High School. I went to undergraduate college at Beloit College, and then I went to professional school in Chicago at the Scholl College of Podiatric Medicine. And in case you're interested, a podiatrist is a specialist in problems of the foot and ankle. Our education today is basically the same as any MD, although we have our own degree, Doctor of Podiatric Medicine. But our schools are part of the same university system as the medical schools, and the podiatry students go to the same classes as their MD colleagues. the main difference is that they tend to specialize earlier into conditions affecting the foot and ankle. Anyway, I practiced for 40 years in Kenosha and Racine, and I'd say one of the most rewarding things about the profession is the fact that you can make the patients very happy by relieving their pain very quickly in many, many cases. And it is a reward to see people go out happy after you've had an opportunity to treat their problem. I've been retired now for over 10 years. I'm 77 years old. And in my retirement, I found a lot of activities that I like to do. I find that doing things that help other people has been rewarding. I experimented early in my retirement of doing various things, and I've ended up doing several that I like. One of them, a very easy task, is delivering Meals on Wheels once a week, and occasionally I substitute on another day when they need somebody. And that's fun because you meet a lot of elderly and infirm, frail people, and some of them not so elderly who have significant health problems. And you're really helping them by bringing them a hot meal every day. You get to know these people, and in many cases, they're the only people that you're the only person they get to see during the day. So it's especially rewarding. Sometimes too, you get to do a little extra something for them if they need some little help around where they live. I also mentor school children through a program through the Kenosha Unified School District. Our portion of the program is run through RSVP, which stands for Retired Senior and Volunteer Program, and that's a part of Kenosha Area Family and Aging Services. The RSVP seeks out volunteers, and then the Kenosha Unified School District matches them with the student that they feel would benefit from having a mentor. Now, a mentor is not a tutor, although on occasion you may help the kid a little bit if it's something you can really help them with. It's mostly to be a friend, be a male figure in their lives. Most of them come from single parent households. Some are living with grandparents. And the idea of having a positive figure in their lives is something that in the end turns out to be very important to them. I also do some volunteer work with our church, visiting homebound parishioners, and again, that's very rewarding. They're, for one reason or another, illness, age, they can't get out, and I can bring in a connection with the church for them. I do a little work yet related to my profession, where I work through our state association, and my job is to keep the members informed of political activities that may influence our profession and their practices. And this can be a challenge as the age difference between me and some of the younger practitioners increases, and you find that different age groups tend to look at life in different ways. But I have fun doing it, and again, you feel like you're helping the profession in that way, and I just like being involved. So when I'm not doing those things, my wife and I, we have 2 children, and we have 1 granddaughter who's in town, and she's 6 years old and in 1st grade. And of course, she's the apple of our eye, and we're very appreciative of her. And it's fun to be involved with her and her parents, and we do things locally. We had a good time last summer visiting the tall ships in Kenosha, and we have a cottage up in northern Wisconsin where we go several times a year and just spend a long weekend, somewhat relaxing, although our son is usually so involved with working around the place that he'll come in for lunch and for dinner, and he seems to be busy all the rest of the time. Some of us take it a little easier than he does. So those are the main things. I have several friends that I take around who don't drive anymore, and that's fun. We have a dinner group we meet with, and some meet for coffee. And so I think I lead a fairly full life. I try to read and be well informed on the issues of the day. And my wife, Mary Harms, and I feel that we are keeping active and involved, and we're really very happy to do these.
Welcome, Kenosha. We are grateful and thankful for Channel 14. I want to say that right away, because without Channel 14, you wouldn't be hearing this this evening or whenever you happen to be watching. Now, I've been asked to speak a little bit about myself, but I certainly have to include my beloved city, Kenosha, Wisconsin, because that's where I was born, and I was born here in 1956, and I was born into a great family. My name is David T.D. Berg, and actually my family history, there's presently DeBerg's frame shop on 63rd Street, and that goes way back over 100 years to my father's father's father. So that's a part of my family, and I'm thankful for the city of Kenosha, and I want to name some institutions and some groups that have had an influence on my life. My education, I was raised in the Roman Catholic Church at St. George Church, and then went on to St. Joseph's High School. So that had an influence on my life. I had a great mother and father, and I have to say, they really loved each other, and that had a great influence on our family of 6 siblings. And so I'm very grateful. My dad was a successful accountant, and my mother was a homemaker. Now, when I got out of high school, I did go to college like all my brothers and sisters, and I went away to Stevens Point, but I came back and went to Gateway as well as Parkside, and then I went to La Crosse and came back and graduated from UW Parkside. So I am a graduate of UW Parkside, and I'm thankful for the great educational institutions we have in Kenosha. Gateway I mentioned, which I'm also a graduate of, and we're thankful for Carthage College. I didn't go to school there, but I spent a lot of time in their great library, and going back in the 1970s and 80s, Carthage College isn't what it is today. It's really developed over the years, and a shout out to Dr. Campbell, who was the president in the 80s, 90s, certainly the 1980s, and he was very good at getting people to give money, and that has helped make Carthage College what it is today. I would also like to incorporate into my talk about my involvement with Kenosha Unified School District. I joined the military back in the mid-'80s, and I was in the Wisconsin Army National Guard, and while doing so, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer, for my military commitment and involvement, I became a substitute teacher, and I worked in Kenosha Unified School District for 15 years and was able to have an impact on literally thousands of students. And presently there's over 20,000 students in Kenosha Unified School District. It's a big district, it's a large district, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be not only a substitute teacher, but I worked as an educational assistant, and I worked in the area of special ed. And moving on, the media outlets in our city, I'm thankful for WLIP, which has Lighten Up with Lenny. People that listen in the morning, they're familiar with Lenny and his program, whether you like him or not. I'm thankful for the open forum that they have on WLIP. And I did mention Channel 14. This cable network goes back many years. Actually, in the beginning, I think it was Channel 21. But we are hopeful that Channel 14 continues. And finally, I would like to speak about the YMCA, formerly the downtown KYF, where I learned to swim. And then actually the history of the KYF, I believe originally it was a YMCA, then it was changed over to the KYF for more interdenominational purposes. And then when Pat Monaco took over, it was in the 80s, I believe, or early 90s, then it was changed back to the YMCA. But I've been an active member of the KYF going back to the first swim lessons in the early 1960s. And we're thankful for the YMCA and all it does, the Young Men's Christian Association, which literally is an international organization. And we have that branch, the Callahan branch, which is west of Highway 31 off of Highway 158. And to this day, a very growing institution, and we are thankful for that too. So, a little bit about me, but I would be remiss not mentioning these different institutions, educational institutions, and groups that have had an influence to help make me who I am today. And finally, again, thank you for Channel 14 and this forum that they present for many, many different groups to air a wide range, variety of ideas. How can I forget I can't help but mention the churches too. I did mention I was raised as a Roman Catholic. I was involved with Pentecostal Church of God, which today has a building at 63rd Street and 24th Avenue, and also Assembly of God, which now is called Journey Church. I was involved out there, and I'm presently involved with Faith Life Victory, and a American Kenyan pastor. He came from Kenya, Dr. Mochia. And having been to Israel many times, we're also thankful for the Orthodox Jewish community, the Jewish community in Kenosha. Now, I might be getting a little long-winded, but bring it all together. That's what I have to share and say and tell about our beloved city, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Thank you.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Michael Buckner Sr. I'm retired from the United States Army after 20 years. I currently have my own consulting business. It's Deer Management Consulting. I got to know the staff here at Kenosha Media some time ago, both Jason and Ralph, wonderful people. In my spare time, what I do, I mentor students, elementary students. I also spend a lot of time sharing the gospel within the community of Kenosha and surrounding areas and other states, because as a Christian, I believe that's important for each of us who consider ourselves workers for the kingdom. I like to put it that way. But I would just really like to point out that the members of the Kenosha Media, I really admire these people. They're honest, hardworking, decent people. They provide good training. They're very helpful if one wants to record something, or just basically in general. My experiences with them has been really wonderful. I really appreciate their friendship. And in terms of Kenosha as a whole, I found Kenosha to be a very good community. A lot of good Midwestern people that have home values, community. fellowship, all those wonderful things, that you don't often find in other states and other communities. So I'm really grateful to be relocated out here. Initially, I'm from Connecticut. I grew up there in Connecticut prior to joining the military, prior to going active duty. My first exposure to the military was when I joined the National Guard, and that was years ago. But that was a really great experience for me. And through that experience, the warrant officer that I had at the time, his name was Chief Warrant Officer Ozan, Mr. Ozan. That experience really shaped my view of the military, and particularly from the perspective of serving one's country. Since retiring from the military, I've had an opportunity to travel around the world. I've been to Africa, South America, Tahiti, Mexico, various places. And I raise this point for this one particular reason, that a lot of people don't realize that our freedom and liberties that we have, a lot of people take those things for granted. And the military, while serving with other people, multiple backgrounds, those experiences and relationships really made me grow as an individual. And my view and perception of the world dramatically changed. Now, after serving initially in the National Guard for 8 years, 8 wonderful years, then I went active duty, where I completed the remainder of my time in terms of communicating 20 years. And it worked out well. After coming out of the military, after 20 years, I was kind of trying to find my niche, to use those skills of leadership and all the things that you gain from the military to apply somewhere else. So I went into the field of education. I initially got exposure to a program that's called Troops to Teachers. I worked for the Chicago Public Schools. I started back in 1994 after coming to this area. That was a great experience. I love teaching. I love that experience. And it taught me a lot, too, about myself, because I'm the type of person, I believe that life is really not really worthwhile and meaningful if it's only about you, if the focus is only upon you. I'm the type of person that I believe that one way of measuring one's self-worth is to ask yourself, what are you giving back to other people? How do you help those who perhaps may not have the opportunities that you have? Because there's a lot of people in our society and culture that come from foreign countries. There's people, immigrants, that come into this country that work 2 and 3 jobs to try and feed their families and support themselves. So I'm very grateful with regard to that. And I think all of us as American citizens should be geared toward the fact of feeling like we have a civic responsibility to help other people. Help them, and I know this is an overused term, to pull themselves up and support themselves and provide a window of opportunity for them to support themselves and their family and reach a level of economic stability. To me, those things are really important. But most important, I love people. I think it's important to be the type of person to where you go out of your way to befriend other people. Because one of the things I've learned through that military experience is working with a very diverse group of people. You grow as an individual when you open yourself up to building relationships with other people, learning who they are, where they come from, their backgrounds. All of those things help you grow. Now, in addition to that, one of the other things I'm extremely proud of is the military provided for me an opportunity to get a lot of education. As I mentioned earlier, when I was in Connecticut prior to my leaving the state permanently, I was in high school. I was pretty much lost at that time as an individual. So I made the mistake of dropping out of high school. Once dropping out of high school, I learned very quickly that without a formal education, career opportunities are very, very limited. And that experience taught me that having those credentials, that's something that you need if you're going to be marketable within this society, anywhere for that matter. So what I ended up doing was, after realizing the tragic mistake that I made by dropping out of high school, I went through a GED program where I acquired my GED. And from that standpoint, I just never looked back. And the military provided me an opportunity after going active duty to get my associate's degree, get a bachelor's degree, and 2 master's degrees. And only in America can those type of things take place. That's why I love this nation. Also, too, having, as I mentioned earlier, traveling around the world, there's a lot of countries that require their citizens to join the military as a means to not only gain military experience and occupation experience, but also lots of countries view that as an obligation and a duty to show one's loyalty to the nation. And I think that's extremely important. Personally, I would like to see more people in our country, here in the great United States of America, do more to our nation, to show their patriotism, to show that each of us have a stake in the freedoms that we get to enjoy. Because the reality is a lot of men and women have lost their lives for the freedoms that we have and that we have the opportunity to enjoy. In any event, I hope I haven't gone on too much, but I just wanted to share a brief synopsis about myself. And again, hats off to Kenosha Media and its staff. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dr. Mark W. Webb, and I'm excited to be able to share with you some of the things that I do and how I work in the community of Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so let's begin with that. I am one of the pastors and bishops, the overseer of Outreach Ministry Fellowship of Churches. Currently we are at 6442 22nd Avenue in Kenosha. That's where our church and conference center is, and in that particular location there are 2 churches that operate out of that locations: Abundant Life Church Ministries and New and Abundant Life Ministries, and the Anointed Word Outreach Ministries. And these 2 outreach ministries function out of the conference center there at 6442 22nd Avenue, the church right there on the corner. And what I do is I oversee the ministry and the fellowship that's in the area. We also have a church at 1925 65th Avenue, the Blessing Center Church, 1925 65th Avenue. Is actually about a block down the street from the church where the pastor is the Right Reverend Bishop E.N. Cooksey. Albert Nash Cooksey is the pastor there. And also in Kenosha, we have also a fellowship church that we have is the Open Door Church Incorporated. The Open Door Church Incorporated, where the Bishop R.L. Webb is the pastor and overseer of the church. And so in the community of Kenosha, we have 4 strong churches that work in the community to help upbuild the community, to strengthen the community. And the way we do this is we have different programs at our Blessing Center location church. We work with the community. They give away food baskets to the community once a week, sometimes once a month, sometimes it's once a week, that they give away on the Saturday, the food baskets, and to help the community, to help supplement people's food allowance for the month. And then also at the conference center, they feed the homeless. They have dinner. Matter of fact, this coming November for Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving Day, they'll be serving the homeless and anybody else in the community that wants to come and have Thanksgiving and have fellowship and eat good food and have good warm fellowship. And so our churches are community-based churches that reaches out to the community. All people are invited to come. We're a non-denominational ministry, non-denominational church is, we're open to all churches, all ministries, all fellowship, all faith, all colors, all creed. All people are welcome to come to worship. The worship times are different times. The earliest church there, Sunday schools start at 9 o'clock, and the service usually begin around 10:30 or 11 o'clock on Sundays. And then the Bible studies are Tuesday nights. The Blessing Center Church is Tuesday night service Bible study from 7 to 9 o'clock, and then they have their Monday. Those that like to pray and want prayer to come out for prayer, they have their Monday night prayer meetings. And then the Conference Center Bible studies are on Wednesday night. They're on Wednesday night from 7 to 9 o'clock. And then there's also the Friday night services that start at 7 o'clock p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Also, we have what we call a reach out, or an outreach in the community to young people, helping young people, working with young people. We do all kinds of things like for the celebration of Halloween, we have like a Hallelujah night, a safe environment for young people to come out and celebrate, and have fun, and play games, and enjoy each other and fellowship with each other. So we have a great outreach ministry that reaches out to the community, young as well as the elderly, as well as all walks of life, family. We do family teaching, family counseling, family mentorship, young ladies mentorship, men's mentorship in all of our churches. So we provide a variety of community efforts to enhance the community, to work with the community, and to help the community. Not only that, I personally have a ministry outreach, a TV ministry right here on this community channel, right here on a community channel where it's called The Hour of Power and Power Deliverance Program, where I do Bible studies right there on TV here at the community channel, and where I do teaching and training. And then sometimes I'll take you into one of my Power Deliverance Ministry services, where the service is being filmed live and where I'm preaching in a church setting or church ministry. And then there's other times where I do a private teaching just for the TV channel, TV station, to those that want Bible teaching and want to understand the Bible and to understand the Word of God. And so we reach out through the TV community channel also. So look for me on the community channel. On community channel, I come most time on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So look for me at any time, and I'll be teaching, I'll be ministering on there. So we do a variety of outreaches to reach out to our community, do a variety of them, reaching out to our community, touching our community in every aspect and in every way that we can reach out, and in every aspect that we can reach out. And so look for the Open Door Church, the Bishop Raymond L. Webb, out there on Sheridan Road, 10927 Sheridan Road. All you gotta do is take Sheridan Road and keep taking it until on the south side until you're going out like you're going to Illinois. And just before you get to the Illinois, it's on the left-hand side, 10927 Sheridan Road, the Open Door Church. And then there's the 1925 65th Street, right on the corner, the Blessing Center. And you can see it's this big sign on it that says Blessing Center, big water fountain. The pastor, Ian Cooksey, is the presiding pastor and the bishop over that ministry. And then there is the conference center. It says OMI Conference Center. It's on 22nd, come through the Uptown, and it's right there on the corner. And so these are our outlets in the Kenosha area where we reach out and we reach as many people, all nationalities, all colors are we're open to. And we just love the fellowship. We love to work in the community. We love to do good teaching. We love to teach, mentor, and train. So why don't you come out and meet us there with our services. We have services at 3 p.m. Every Sunday at the conference center, so you can meet us at 3 p.m. Also, we have services once every other week, the first Sunday night and the third Sunday night at the conference center, 6 o'clock p.m. alternative service. For those of you that work on a Sunday, work during the day, can't get out, well, you can come to our 6 p.m. service on Sunday night at 6 p.m. And that's at 6442 22nd Avenue at the conference center. That's the first Sunday night and the third Sunday night. Come out, there's always a good word, always powerful teaching, powerful training, powerful ministry, powerful praise, powerful worship. We have a good time. All of our ministries are loving ministries. We love to love people, to love on people. We love to worship with people. We love to fellowship with people. So come out and visit us. Come out and meet us. Meet our leaders. We have beautiful a host of great pastors and leaders there. You want to meet them, great people, loving people, good people, people of God. And come out. We might be able to help you or enhance your life or build your life. We might be able to encourage your life and be a prosperity. But one thing I'll tell you, your experience will always be a positive experience. So come out and be with us, and we'll be glad to have you. We'll be glad to have you. So I thank the privilege of the community channel for inviting me to be able to come on and to share with you what I do and what our churches are and what our ministries are. And to remind you, don't forget to view me on the community channel, look for Power Deliverance or Hour of Power. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I come on, I share the word of God with you, do live services. So come and view us. I hope I shared something with you. Amen. Oh, by the way, I give power thoughts on my social media. You can come on my social media. What I'm talking about, you can meet me on social media. Look for Mark Webb on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and all the social networks. I try to make sure that I'm on all social networks. Come on those social networks and I'll see you there. On Facebook, I'm on there. Look for Mark Webb or look for Apostle Mark Webb. Either one, and you'll find one of my pages. I have several pages on all of the social media. So just click on one of those pages. Also, you can click on Power Deliverance. And you can get one of my page on the Power Deliverance for my personal ministry. You can also click on WIN TV, World Impact Network TV page on social media, and you can get many of my teachings and ministries that's on TV. You can also click on YouTube, Mark Webb, or Power of Deliverance, or Apostle Mark Webb. And on all of those YouTube channels, there's teachings that I teach. If you want to know something about me before you come, the type of teaching, type of ministry, non-denominational teaching and preaching that I do, come on, and check me out. Check out what I teach. Also, I have on those pages my power thoughts. I give wonderful power thoughts. And what are power thoughts? Power thoughts are thoughts to encourage you, to empower you in whatever you're doing in life. They are positive thoughts, are powerful thoughts that will build you, that will increase you, that will encourage you to become all that you can become and do all that you can do. I believe in a positive attitude, a positive spirit, and positive movement and positive motion. And so I thrive for that. That's my passion, anything that I can do. Also, I've written a book. A book, and it's called Personal Power Thoughts. Personal Power Thoughts of the Apostle. Personal Power Thoughts by Apostle Mark W. Webb. You can get that book anywhere. You can get that book anywhere. That book is everywhere. The easiest way to do is just go on Amazon and say personal power. I want that personal powerful power thoughts by Apostle Mark W. Webb, and you can order it off Amazon. You can get it at Barnes and Noble, just about any place you look. You can get it. I guarantee that book will encourage you. It's full of positive thinking, positive thought, positive words, positive information that will increase you and build you. And I probably should have brought it in so I could hold it up and show you. But that's just one of the books that I've written. And also I've written other books that might encourage you and might build you. But all you gotta do is just go on Amazon, click my name in Amazon, and ask for any of my books, and all the books will come up. But that was my latest book, and I'm proud of that book. And I know that that book will bless you. I know that that book will encourage you. Personal power for you. It's personal power. It's called Power Thoughts for Personal Power. Get it. Power Thoughts for Personal Power by Apostle Dr. Mark W. Webb. Guarantee it'll bless you. Just go on Amazon, look it up. It's there, Barnes and Nobles, any place where you can find or you can order books. You can get that book and it will bless you. And you can get some of the other books that I've written, and all of them are powerful books that will build you and encourage you. Well, there's probably a whole lot of other things I probably could share with you, but I'm not going to eat up all of the time. I know there's other people coming on, but this is what I'm doing in the community. This is what I'm doing to help the community, to work in the community. Remember this, that it takes a village. One person can't do it all. It takes a village. It takes all of us working together in a positive way, in a positive format, to upbuild our community. So I want to encourage everybody, whatever you're doing, whether you consider it big, small, or great, or little, however you consider it, long as it is positive energy, it is certain to help build our community and make our community what it should be. So may the Lord richly bless you and keep you. At this time, I'm going to say a word of prayer for those of you that might get a chance to watch my interview. Father, I pray in the mighty name of Jesus, those that are watching me from all walks of life, from all ministry, from all works of life, from all religious formats, from all religious thinking, and from all personal thinking. Lord, I pray, God, that whatever that they're doing, God, that's in a positive format and in a positive way, Father, I pray that it will strengthen them, build them, uplift them, encourage them, God, right where they're at and what they're doing. And those, God, that may be dealing with issues in their life, negative issues that have hit their life, negative energies that they're receiving every day of life. Lord, I pray that things will be better for them and that things will be positive for them and things will change for them and things will happen that are good for them and that will bless their home and bless their family. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Hope I shared something with you that is positive and uplifting and building you. This is what I'm doing in the community.
Okay, hi, I'm Father Dwight Campbell, and I was asked to come in and speak a little bit about myself. I'm a native of Chicago, Illinois, born there in 1957, and grew up there, was ordained a priest in Illinois after practicing law as an assistant state's attorney in central Illinois for about 4 years. Then I went off to the seminary, was ordained a priest May of 1991. I served in central Illinois for a number of years. Then I went off for studies, for higher studies, to pursue a doctorate in theology with a concentration on the Blessed Virgin Mary. We call it Mariology, back in the early 2000s. And in 2011, I, with another priest, came to Kenosha. We knew that there was a shortage of priests here, and we were trying to found a new priestly society called the Apostles of Jesus Christ, Priest and Victim. And our society was basically an opportunity for priests to live together, share a common life together, pray together, study together, and We were accepted into the Archdiocese of Milwaukee back in 2011, and things were going well. We had a number of people inquiring into our society, and then my priest friend, Father Ben Reese, contracted Lou Gehrig's disease, and he died 4 years ago back in September. And I have just stayed here in Kenosha at both parishes that I'm serving. The parishes are Our Lady of Mount Carmel. It's right next to Columbus Park on 54th Street, and St. Therese, which is on the south side, right off 22nd Avenue and 91st Street. So I'm very happy to be serving the two congregations there. When Father Reese became sick with his Lou Gehrig's disease some years ago, another priest came to assist, was assigned at the parish, Father Bob McDermott. He helps me. We can say help each other, serving both parishes. We rotate going back and forth every weekend. I do Mount Carmel one weekend, he does St. Therese, and vice versa the following weekend. And really enjoy Kenosha. My folks are still on the south side of Chicago, where I grew up. I go to visit them once every few weeks. I was just there last night. But I really enjoy the Kenosha area, being up in Wisconsin, and enjoy the city of Kenosha. We have a number of Catholic parishes here, very fine priests who are ministering to the faithful in the various parishes. And one of the things I've come to enjoy in Kenosha is the parish festivals. Every year at St. Therese and Our Lady of Mount Carmel, we host a festival. Usually it's Mount Carmel mid-July, and then the following week is St. Therese. And the opportunity to host an event for the whole community is a real blessing, and we really enjoy the opportunity to have those festivals, as do a number of the other parishes in Kenosha. I try to keep busy with teaching. I like to teach. I offer a number of courses in the parish. I'm teaching one right now on a woman who's a venerable on her way to becoming a saint one day, maybe, Mary of Agreda. She had mystical revelations of the Blessed Virgin Mary's life, and I'm teaching that right now on Tuesday evenings. I have 4 more courses to teach. I've, in recent years, taught a number of times at the seminary, future priests on the topic of the Blessed Virgin Mary. I've also taught and am currently teaching this semester at St. Joseph's High School here in Kenosha. I teach seniors apologetics, which means how to defend one's faith. Basically, to encourage them to be able to explain and defend the Catholic faith if someone questions it or attacks it. I also teach on Sunday nights our confirmation program, freshmen. I teach scripture to them, Old and New Testament. We go through the whole Bible in a year, which I really enjoy as well. And the opportunity to get up every weekend and speak to the people about Christ, about the scriptures for that week. I enjoy that as well. We, at Mount Carmel and St. Therese, have programs for not only our youth, but for adult education, as I mentioned. And I'll throw in here too, at St. Therese, we have an ongoing women's Bible study
and that's once a week. I, every Wednesday morning, offer a men's Bible study at 6 a.m. For the brave of heart, as I call it. I have a pot of hot coffee ready, and I get together with a group of men, and we study the scripture readings for the upcoming Sunday. And it really helps us to be in touch with what's going to be read and heard for the Sunday masses. That's every Wednesday morning at Mount Carmel School, actually, is where I hold the men's Bible study at 6 a.m. if anyone would like to come. As I said, I've really enjoyed my time up here these past years since 2011 in Kenosha. I really enjoy the parishes, the people that are there, the opportunity to work with various groups, and I hope to continue on for many years to come. I'm on the second year of a 6-year term, a 6-year appointment right now, and hopefully I'll be able to, God willing, and if I have good health, to continue on for a number of years in the future. I thank you for the opportunity to share my own little vignette of what I do as a Catholic priest here in Kenosha, and the opportunity to give people an idea of what a priest does, a Catholic priest who serves parishes. And I consider myself greatly blessed to be able to serve the people of God and hopefully lead them to a deeper encounter with Jesus Christ. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Annie Wasilewicz, born and raised in Kenosha, and I currently work at Piasecki Funeral Home. In the past, I didn't work in Kenosha. I worked in Racine for a good portion of my career. But bringing me back to Piasecki Funeral Home now within the last 8 years, it's brought me back to my community, my hometown, which I so enjoy and love. Piasecki has a great history in Kenosha, and it's been here for numbers and numbers of years. Back in the 30s, it started. And so working there, I've reconnected with the community. I get to see families and friends, although it's not always at the best circumstances, but it is quite a comfort when I see them and they see me at the funeral home that I'm able to help them through a most difficult time. And I've stayed active in the community. I went to St. Joseph High School, St. Therese Grade School, lived out in Pleasant Prairie, and actually now I live out in Salem, west of the I. And I enjoy Kenosha so much. There's so many things here to offer, and so I just stay involved and enjoy the lakefront and Petrifying Springs. You know, the colleges offer so much. Did go to Parkside and Gateway, but out at Carthage, it's a beautiful campus. Just feel so privileged to be here. We're right in between Chicago and Milwaukee, and it just seems like our community offers so much. I'm grateful for people that have established businesses here long term and have grown the community to be a great place to live, and people want to come here and live or visit. And there's just so many things in our community to enjoy. So whether it's the restaurants, the fun things to do, and I'm mostly an outdoors person, so I do enjoy the lakefront and the inlet lakes as well, biking through the trails. So I appreciate what Jim Crozer has done, our Kenosha County executive, with the trails, the bike paths, and things like that to keep us bikers safe. but it's just a great atmosphere and scenic area to bike through, and the land, the air, everything is just so beautiful. And we've gotten great places to stay fit, like Pleasant Prairie Recplex, the Kenosha Y, MCA, and other areas, but there's just so much to do. So, and one of the things that I'm highly involved with in our community is the veterans. So it's been my work through the Piasecki Funeral Home that I've been able to meet so many of our local veterans. And Nancy Piasecki has had a passion for supporting the veterans forever. And so she's allowed me to meet more of the veterans in our community to help support them, their functions, and they're just a wonderful, great group of people. So I have visited nursing homes where the veterans are, and also have partaken in the Heroes Cafe, which Festival Foods has a location on the north side and the south side, and they've established an area for people, the veterans, to come and socialize, have a donut, juice, coffee, and that's been started by Mary and Sharon, and they have been there for the last, I think it's coming up on 7 years now, every Friday on the south side for the veterans to come together. And it's become a whole community, a great fellowship. There's just such a strong bond with the veterans. And then other people come and thank the veterans for their service as well. So through this service that I've been able to do with the veterans, and then also partaking in a funeral service for a veteran, it's so humbling, and I appreciate their service. And I really wish that I had studied more of our history, that I would know so much more about the time frame that they went through, whether it was Korea, Vietnam, World War II veterans that I've met. There's just so much that they did, they took part in, and how it affected their lives and how it got for them to be where they are today. So I'm just so grateful that I've met so many veterans in our community, and so thankful for that. And again, through the funeral home, so just met and developed so many dear friendships. I still keep in touch with my friends from high school, and some of them I haven't seen in many years. And then again, through a funeral service, it might be that their parents passed away, a sibling or something, that they've come back to the funeral home for our services, and then I've reconnected with them and their families, and it's quite an honor. It's very humbling to help someone through a very difficult time, which leads me to also tell you that Piasecki Funeral Home supports a grief group, in which I'm very much a part of as well. We sponsor the program called Grief Share, and it's actually run by Pastor Charlie Hansen, but then myself and Roger Rodriguez, we help lead the group. And I've been working with Pastor Charlie now, I think it's been going on 7 years. So we've helped many people, whether the funeral home has served those families or not. It's just people in our communities that have been hurting for so much because of a loss, that we've taken them through a grief journey, and hopefully, to get them back into finding a little bit of happiness with the life that they have without their loved one. And that's very difficult for some people. So through this offering of the grief support group too, I worked with Kenosha County, Debbie Ruber, who has started the grief group for survivors of suicide, which has been very rampant in our community and nationwide, especially with drug overdoses. And but anyway, so Debbie has offered, and we help support that by sharing the facility which they house the group in. So Debbie runs the suicide support group, and I've helped with that as well. Again, it's very humbling, but it's also very, I'm not sure what a good word is for it. It's just such a honor to try to hold somebody's hands through such a loss, especially through suicide. So I'm grateful that I was able to touch some people's lives through that as well. So, gosh, there's just so much to tell you about Kenosha, whether it's spring, fall, summer, winter. Although, you know, people don't always like the cold so much, but the snow is so beautiful, and this community that we have, where the snow falls, it's just so gorgeous. Although just recently the lakes, Lake Michigan was very, very damaging to our shorefront because of the high winds and all that just a couple weeks ago. But the lake itself is still just a beautiful asset to our area, and often we take it for granted, I think. So it's great to live here. It's great to be here. I'm glad I was born and raised in this area. There's so many great things to see and do, and I'm not sure what else.
My name is Corey Van Groen, the head wrestling coach at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. I also graduated from Parkside in 2009. I graduated with a degree in exercise science, and this is my third year as the head wrestling coach. Moved here to Kenosha 2-3 years ago. Love Kenosha and the surrounding area for a lot of different reasons. Mainly the convenience. The convenience, obviously, the Parkside. My wife works at Carthage, so living in close proximity to those two locations is really important and convenient for us and our family. And then just being close to the I-94, being able to get to travel and get home to see our extended family, really convenient. And then you got all the social activities downtown and the downtown Kenosha part, and then also closer by where the strip mall is and things. There's all kinds of restaurants and shopping and just about anything else you want to do in Kenosha. So really convenient and great place to live. And it's also I bring recruits for our wrestling team all over the country. So I tour the city with these guys and get to show them all the hot spots around the surrounding area. And so it's a lot of fun to do that. Really proud to live here and excited for the next couple of years to come.
Hi, my name is Chuck Leipzig. I was born and raised in Kenosha. So I am a Kenosha native, and I've been here all of my life. I'm currently 53 years old. I was born and raised locally, so I went to school at St. George, which is now St. Elizabeth, from 1st through 8th grade, Washington Middle School, and Bradford High School. My initial plan was to become an engineer. So I started at Gateway for their pre-engineering program, and then I transferred to UW Parkside to continue into engineering. I became interested in public safety when I moved to Summers, and I became a volunteer in Summers. So I started in a volunteer fire department, and I really didn't know much about career fire department other than it seemed something very noble, very admirable to do. My uncle was a firefighter, and that gave me a little bit of interest as well. So when I started on Summers Fire Department, I was 18 years old. I went to EMT school, and then ultimately EMTI and paramedic school. And that's really where I got my interest in fire service as well as emergency medical work. So on on a dare from my girlfriend, I applied for the Kenosha Fire Department, and I got hired shortly after that. So I was partway through engineering school, and that's when I got the call to become a firefighter, and I thought, sounds nice, but it's not really what I went to school for. So at that point, I took the job as a firefighter, and I immediately knew that that was the calling for me. So shortly after that, I changed my major to public safety as well as business and management. So I finished my degree in my associate's degree rather in fire science, and I finished with a bachelor's degree in public administration. When I was younger, I went to paramedic school. So my first year on the job, when I was 23, I believe, I went to paramedic school in Illinois, and that's when I immediately knew that I took to the medical aspect of it. So at that point, I was on a rescue squad. So with our fire department, we do not just rescue squad work, but fire work as well, and we're cross-trained, and that really suited a lot of what I think my strength was, is diversity in my field. So since that time, I tested for lieutenant, became lieutenant, subsequently captain, house captain, and I've been a fire chief now for a little over 3 years. The opportunity for fire chief came up about 3.5 years ago because our current fire chief did retire. I never really envisioned myself being a department head, but I've never really shied away from a challenge, so I embraced the challenge. And I have to say it is challenging, but it is also very rewarding. Just some nice things to know about our department. We're 156 members. Out of that, roughly half are paramedic level. We are cross-trained in everything. So when you see a fire truck, you see an EMT and probably a paramedic as well. And by the same token, when you see a rescue squad, you're going to see a firefighter. We're cross-trained in every aspect. We are a Class 2 department, Class 1 being the highest level of protection, and we are very, very close to being Class 1 department. We are also the recipient of 4 years running American Heart Association Gold Plus. That means that our cardiac care is measurable and nationally standard very, very well. We're one of 2 in the state that have gotten that recognition, meaning our department for our EMS work in cardiac. We're currently seeking accreditation, Coverdale Stroke as well, and we're always looking for new ways to benchmark, challenge ourselves, and to become a better department. Some of the challenge that we face in our department is always a diversification of our workforce, so we're always looking for new people, much like every other department that I deal with. Recruitment is a big thing, so we do our recruitments in April and May, and we're looking for people that want to be public servants. And that being said, our minimum qualifications for firefighter would be firefighter 1, firefighter 2, an EMT, or an associate's degree in fire science, or a bachelor's degree in anything. So that leaves a broad opening for just about anybody that wants to be involved in firefighting. A lot of the skills that we get are on the job, so we always are looking for new candidates. Some of the other challenges that we have are growing with our community as well. Our population is growing, as well as the need for our services. Currently, we're looking at community medicine, which is risk reduction. In that arena, we're looking to slow down our call volume a little bit by doing prevention. Our Fire Prevention Bureau has been very successful, and when it first started, we had to the tune of 240 or 250 fires. Last year, we had 45 measurable fires, so our fire prevention is doing its job. We're looking to do the same thing across the board in our community, as well as risk reduction, public education, and just getting out into the community and defining what those risks are and mitigating those risks. Very proud of our department, very proud of where we are as a city. I take pride in being the department head for the city that I grew up in. I'm a local boy, born and raised. I take pride in my community, and I love what I do. For any of you out there that think you can't attain a position higher up in rank, I would say if I can do it, you can do it. It's been a very rewarding career. I currently go out into the high schools as well as the tech schools. In fact, this weekend we have a recruitment coming up at Gateway, to which we'll be looking for new younger members to our field as well. It's a very in-demand field. Local fire departments as well are always looking to recruit. Locally in our area, it's a very, very in-demand occupation. So if you have that criteria and you have an interest in firefighting, the job market is very wide open for anybody that fits into that role or wants to be a public servant. Beyond that, I am not a 24, 48-hour employee anymore. Those that work in our department that answer calls will work on 24 and off 48 hours, meaning they come to work one day, the next 2 days they have off. Why is that important? It's a commitment away from home, but it is some continuity in service. So we have a 3-platoon system, which means not necessarily me, but when a firefighter leaves today, somebody else will take over, and then after that, somebody else will take over for that. So it is demanding, and I will say from a family perspective, we sacrifice a little bit when it comes to family, because I don't always get to go to the basketball games or the parent-teacher conferences. But in return, I spend a lot of time at home with my kids when they were younger. Right now, I do have an office job, which means I'm there from 8 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday. It's a little bit different. You know, I was born and raised, again, knowing that my desire was to be a public servant. Now I step into the supervisory role, which is just a normal transition for anybody that wants to work their way up. So I've really had a wide diversification in my work and being with the same department for over 30 years now. So I have pride in the city, pride in the department. I love the area I live, I love my neighborhood, and I love my department. For anybody, I believe this is a very viable community for lots of people that want to do it, a lot of variety of things. I'm very proud of this city. In the past, we were known as a manufacturing town. That isn't the case anymore. I think we've grown, and I think we've diversified into a very viable small big or big small community. So we still have the community feel, yet we're the size of a larger city. I take pride in that fact. For anybody that wants to be part of the community, I will say that there are lots of venues out there, and our department and public safety is just one of them. If you have any questions or any concerns, we do have a website. So if you go to City of Kenosha Fire Department, and you can look up my name via email or visit us in our office from 8 to 4:30 on any given day, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have 5 fire stations throughout our community, and they will take on-site tours, meaning we have anybody walk up from a busload of kids to family members that just want to see what their local fire department is all about. So in that area, I would say visit your local fire station and knock on the door and find out what we're about. And again, if you have any questions, my name is Charles Leipzig. You can reach me at 262-653-4098. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joe Rasmussen, and I'm born and raised from Kenosha, Wisconsin. I schooled here all my life, and I've always had a great love of art and comic books. And in my 20s, I learned the art of caricature art. I've been drawing my whole life, but I really learned how to do caricatures in my 20s. I was taught by a great caricature artist named Gary Fazan. I learned in Six Flags Great America Park. That's where I learned how to capture a likeness and do it quickly. And I always had in my mind the idea to combine caricature art with my love of comic books, because I always drew comics, superheroes, and I always really enjoyed that whole genre. And it gave me the idea to combine the two, where I'll draw people as a superhero, as a hero, as a villain, as a whatever, in kind of action-packed scenes. Showing them saving the day, showing them beating up the bad guys, saving the universe, whatever. And so that's what I do now. And they're called comicatures, kind of a mixture of comic book and caricature. And I work by email. You can email me some pictures, 4 or 5 of each subject, the more the better. And I draw that way, so no one has to be present, and I can do it as a surprise. And it's a really cool gift for yourself if you're into any certain thing. I do TV shows, I do movies, I do video games, I do comic books, I do all different sorts of different themes. And you can check me out at my website. It's called jerkintheboxstudios.com. And you can email me at jerkintheboxstudios@gmail.com, and just let me know. It takes me usually maybe up to a month or two, just to be on the safe side. to make sure I can get it done in time if you have an upcoming a date, a birthday, a holiday. And it's a really fun thing. People really enjoy them. People make them into t-shirts. I send you the digital image. And it's just a really cool thing. I enjoy doing them. This year I'm going to be at lots of different comic book shows, gift shows, different things like that where you can see me, see my booth. And I also do caricature art. I do all kinds of art. I'm just your basic artist. And that's pretty much it. Just want to tell you about myself. And thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Richard Schmerling. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I got my introduction into video and video production when I was in a partnership with Video Encounters of the Giant Screen kind. A gentleman that I knew from my childhood. He had opened up a video store renting giant screen televisions, or selling them actually, and then another gentleman got involved with him and they were renting movies, and then I bought into that partnership. Later on the partnership dissolved, but I guess towards the end of the business, a gentleman had come in and was looking for videographers to film the Deep Tunnel project up in Milwaukee, doing pre-construction video surveys. So one of our customers was interested in doing that and then asked me if I'd want to help out, which I did. And I was teasing the guys that were running the Deep Tunnel project. It was a multi-million-dollar project, and I was willing to do it for like 1%, and they said that's a couple $100,000 or something, and so we agreed on an hourly rate, and it was very successful. Later, I got involved with Kenosha Community Media. I also did a little stint prior to that where I was like a video disc jockey out of the Midtown Lounge in the mid to late 80s. We had bands and we'd put cameras on the bands, and then we'd also play different videotape things that we had, or music videos. Sometimes I'd play a song and then just have a video that I thought looked cool to go along with the song. Trying to remember, there was other things along the way that I was involved with. I wish Ralph was in here asking me questions. It would help. I got involved with, I did some character. I did a Wolfman character, and that was at the 1974 Lou Reed Halloween costume concert. I didn't know who Lou Reed was at the time, but some friends of mine were going, and one gentleman was going to go as Dracula. He had a natural V widow's peak, and his girlfriend was going to make him a nice collared cape with a red lining on the inside. And the rest of us were going, well, what am I was asking, what am I going to go as? And somebody mentioned that their brother had taken rabbit fur gloves and turned them inside out for his hands, and then done some makeup to his face, and he went as a Wolfman. I think she mentioned that he had glued some hair on his chest. So I got together with a friend of mine, and we literally glued hair on my face, and I think I took sides of wigs and made some like gloves or little hand applications, and out of 10,000 people, I took 3rd place, and my friend took 5th place as Dracula, me as Wolfman 3rd, and him as Dracula 5th place. And from there I started writing letters, and I wrote to Dr. Cadaverino on Channel 6, and explained that I did a Wolfman character, and I believe we had pictures, and I sent him pictures. Next thing you know, we also knew a young lady from Kenosha, Patty Smith, had entered a contest to become Miss Nightmare on the Dr. Cadaverino's Nightmare Theater. So with that connection And the fact that I had written him a letter, he was all, come on down, you guys can be on the show, and we did it a couple of different times. I think that was about 1976, and then about 5 years later, Toulouse Nonek, hey, zombie friends, I got a real scary movie for you today. He did Shock Theater on Channel 12. I managed to get on his program, and then subsequently, I think it was about 1979, I brought him into Kenosha to do a Crazy Days personal appearance. And I've had a lot of fun. I've gone to tapings of Mork and Mindy. I actually walked down to the front of the auditorium during a break between takes, and Robin was standing there with Mindy, Robin Williams, and Pam, I think might have been her first name, the actress, but I had a Happenings magazine, and I said, excuse me, Robin, I've traveled over 2,500 miles to give this to you. And he grabbed it, oh, what is this? And he opened it up, and I had stuck pictures of my Wolfman character and my friend's Dracula, and I had a little handwritten note on the back, have your people call my people, or something to that effect. Never heard from Robin Williams, and God rest his soul. He was just a nice, truly a talent beyond belief, one of the greatest talents I've ever seen perform, and just so natural, and just what a great guy, and sadly missed. I've also met Eddie Money. I've been backstage to different events, like with Alice Cooper, and trying to think of, I've been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Unfortunately, it wasn't about professional dart players or guys that shoot pool real good. It was spouses that would do anything to get their partner back. Richard Schmeling / Oprah Winfrey, when I was 38 years old, the reporter actually wrote a pretty extensive piece about my appearance on the Oprah Show. What else have I done? I do a lot with Kenosha Community Media. I used to like when we did tape the symphony orchestra, and always some great performances. The Kenosha Symphony Orchestra, highly recommended, Class A talent. Kenosha is full of good musicians, talented people. I do now a lot of Facebook Live. I have a couple of videos that have well over 35,000 views each. One is of the Pat Travers Band, and the other one is my good friends in Electric Revolution. I still enjoy going out and videotaping whenever I get a chance. It's something I enjoy doing. Facebook Live, it doesn't cost me anything, and it doesn't take up my memory, for phone storage or anything like that. I recently got involved with just helping out at a local radio station, WLIP, AM 1050, GetRealWithRalph.com. Very intellectual, entertaining, well thought out topics and dialogue, and some co-hosts on the program. There's some good banter back and forth between the people. And that's archived on GetRealWithRalph.com. And it's every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. And that's something that I'm very impressed with, what Mr. Nudie and his co-host are able to do to entertain the audiences. I was Vice President of Kenosha Community Media, and I served on the board for 9 years. The board meets every Wednesday at 5, once a month on the third Wednesday of the month at 5 o'clock at the it's the Northwest Library, or North Side Library. Probably get Ralph to do an edit there, but the North Side Library, the third Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock. And the meetings are always open to the public, and there's citizens' comments, a portion of the program. There's a place for the citizens to comment on what they like or talk about, themselves and introduce themselves to the board. The board is always looking for new people with fresh ideas to come assist, and that's for Kenosha Community Media. I served on the board for 9 years, and after 9 years, like last year, at the end of last year, I retired from my place of employment and after 9 years of serving on the board, you have to take a minimum of a year off, and so I've been retired and permanently on vacation and just enjoying what I do. I'm looking forward to possibly getting back on the board come 2020 and helping to see Kenosha Community Media grow. And the future and the possibilities are just about endless. So why don't you consider come join us at Kenosha Community Media. And thank you.
There you have it. Hi, my name is Vanetta Powell, and my stage name is Vanetta Lamont, and I am just so excited to come to you in your homes and to your businesses, to your radio, or wherever you may be viewing this telecast, to share with you some wonderful and amazing news that's happening right here in Wisconsin. Yes, right here in Wisconsin. Just to be exact, Kenosha, Wisconsin, at the Kenosha Media Telecast Show. And before I go into this wonderful news, I want to give some shout outs to some very important people that is making all this happen for up and coming producers like myself. I want to give a shout out to Jason Remkes, who is our media coordinator, and to Ralph Piro, who is the assistant media coordinator, and to Dean Romano, who is the president of the Kenosha Media. Now, the wonderful news I want to bring to you is that they are opening doors for those who would like to come in and be producers, to produce shows for this area, for all of you. So, with that being said, I'm excited to share with you that I will be coming into your homes starting 2020, which is my vision for 2020. 2020 vision on the horizon. And I'm excited because God has given me such an awesome dream and vision to share with you. And so I'm hoping that you will tune in. I will be giving little inserts leading up to it so you won't be caught off guard. I will be doing little inserts bringing you into what's about to come in 2020 vision. And so with that being said, I'm asking you to tune in and see there's going to be other producers as well going forth. So tune in. We are looking forward to doing some great and amazing shows for you to come in and join with us and watch. And so with that being said, I'm looking for you, hope to see you. I will be giving more information how you can reach me. But as for now, you can visit me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And my email, if you want to give me a shout out, you have something you want to share with me, my email is powellprosperity@yahoo.com. Again, powellprosperity@yahoo.com. And so we will be listing that later for you to, if you didn't get it this time. So until then, be encouraged, and I will see you at the top.
All right. welcome, and I'm Jason Rumpkus, the media coordinator here at Kenosha Community Media. I got involved actually with video production ever since I was a kid. I was toying around with our family camcorder and editing on just on the one VHS recorder, home recorder. From there, I got interested when the cable company came into town. I applied to see what was going on with what opportunities they had to offer, and one was to submit a program to, at that time, Channel 21. His name was Rob Jake, submitted it, and it really never got anywhere. So I persisted and came back, took the workshop, and then submitted it. I believe it was Terry Kelly who was the original coordinator back then. And then from there, I would always be involved in public access. It's a great opportunity to get your program on the air. And when an opportunity came arise to be the media coordinator, I was previously a production assistant through Channel 55 and then also Channel 34 on Jones Intercable. So there was an opportunity to be the media coordinator. I applied. Many months went by and I finally got it, and here I am today. So, but over those periods when I was media coordinator, I did a number of productions, various from everything, well, we currently do the Civic for Veterans Parade, to the symphonies, to the spelling bee. I do a talk show, local talk show, Just Talkin', and I interview celebrities, nonprofit organizations, and community leaders throughout southeastern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. It's a lot of fun. Our past chairman, Ed Werner, says we have quality programs, enthusiasm, and have fun. And it's true. Those three components have to happen, or that's the way I do it. So, but it's a great opportunity. So now we have, I teach workshops at the studio location on inside the Spectrum building, as well as the Media Lab here at the Studio Hub as well. So it's a lot of fun. Get involved, because if you go to a network station, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars trying to get a program or your message out to it as well. It's nice using the Media Lab because there's no cost and you can use these tools. And it's a great learning experience. And once you learn something on the basics of video productions, you can similarly find another platform, and it'll be a lot easier to learn on that platform. We've got teleprompters here in the Media Lab, the Hub, 2 cameras, production studio. You know, it's great. It's great. And the people that I work with a great media assistant, Ralph Piro. I have worked with John Bloner Jr., who's the executive director. Board of directors, a lot of support. If you don't work or volunteer where there is a lot of support, it's really not worth it, and this is definitely worth it. There's huge support from the community, from the other staff members, volunteers, board of directors, and that's why we're here today. We have an annual event coming up. It'll be at the Casa Capri in September. It'll be a good time. Get involved. You'll probably hear more stories from other local producers, volunteers, directors, camera operators. Get involved. Call 262-656-8497, our website, kenoshamedia.org, and get involved. Thank you.
Well, as a young kid, I was fascinated, with everything on 60s television. Lost in Space, Star Trek, Land of the Lost, anything that had dinosaurs or monsters in it early on, daytime television or early evening. It was later that I discovered Creature Features. Creature Features was a show on WGN in Chicago, and it featured the Universal horror films, which I've never been able to lose interest in to this day. Those captured my heart as a kid, and I thought they were the most fascinating things in the world, and they became central to my life, and I think they really pulled me through a lot of hard times as a child that I had gone through, and I had those movies really for support. They gave me something that I felt very special and connected to, and that drove my interest for the rest of my life, really. And then I started finding out from people, and well, I heard about it, horror host people. But what really opened the door, the gateway, was a little black and white television set that I received on Christmas. Had the old circle UHF antenna. At the time, the big TV in the living room did not have a UHF antenna, so we didn't get those programs. But my little black and white set, of course with some snowy interference, did manage to get all those cool television shows, which opened up the door for a lot of things. And one of them, of course, was the original Svengoolie with Jerry G. Bishop. I would tune in just to watch him. I thought he was an amazing character. Original Svengoolie, of course, looked very much like sort of like a hippie, I guess. He was very right for the times of 1970. Then I found out another host was on out of Milwaukee. That was Dr. Cadaverino. He was on so late at night, I was scared of him, actually. He scared me. That and the idea that I might get caught watching television at 12:30 a.m., because that's about the time he rolled in. So the combination of his eerie appearance and that late hour definitely made it an issue, and I was scared. There was no doubt about it. Never forget those times. They were great times. Later on, of course, we got Too Loose No Neck around 1980. Now, this is at a time that I actually started playing in punk rock bands. The wave of punk rock, or the interest anyway, had started picking up here, 78, 79. And it was the perfect place for me to vent my aggressions and outlet my craziness. And there wasn't no punk rock around yet, and people didn't know what it was. People were very negative attitude, and of course we had negative attitudes anyway. That's why it was punk rock. But there was no history to punk rock yet at this time. It was a brand new thing. You couldn't go back 40 years like you can now and find elements and bring it to the table of what's happening now. In the true sense, that real punk rock was very short-lived, and whatever their kids are doing today, I'm glad they're very passionate about it, but it's just not going to ever be the same thing. Sorry to burst your bubble on that one. I guess sometimes I get in trouble because I've always had that attitude, a little bit of sarcasm. My grandmother and my mother were very sarcastic about situations, and they always called out fakers all the time. If they, nothing, how do we put this? BS would fly by them. They called everybody out on that kind of stuff. Well, later in life, then my two buddies, twin brother friends from Ruther, Dean and Don Lipke, they were pretty much the same way, in that I had already been groomed from my my family. Well, that was fire putting the three of us together, and that's where all the rock and roll stuff started happening. And anyway, with whatever, you get too deep sometimes into something that draws you in. And I was very young, very self-destructive. That's where the name Destruction came from, is those days. And those were not pretty days. There was nothing pretty about those days. And a lot of negativity, a lot of cutters, stuff going on, and too much drinking and everything like that. And I just basically woke up one day and said, I can't think this way anymore. I can't do this anymore. I just can't live like this anymore. And I just turned all that off. I don't know how I did it. I just got rid of all that negativity, and I said, I'm not gonna go that route anymore. And then that was a big, changing point. It was also a changing point was that at this time I'm rediscovering my monster movie roots, sort of nostalgia, looking back. And now I was in my, just turned 21, and I was reliving all that, and then I started channeling in my music, sort of what later would be called goth. There wasn't really anybody using that word when I started Die Monster Die in 1984. We just figured it was horror rock or horror punk. That's what it's called today. And a lot of the only real goth bands around back then were, you had Bauhaus, and I think maybe Sisters of Mercy were coming out. That whole thing was just starting. But that's when I applied the vampire look to the music and writing songs with horror themes and whatnot. And this is at the same time, by the way, that amazing stuff is going on with punk rock bands like the Dead Kennedys is a good example, or the Crusoe, I can't finish their name. Really some incredible politically strong punk rock music was being done at the same time that I was doing my my horror band thing, and that music was very important too. But that was I had drifted off, and all the bands used to come through town here, all the touring punk bands, like 84, 85, 86, to a place called Duke's 2 on 14th Avenue. We had so much fun there, by the way. They had to put a prison in its place once they knocked it down. But a lot of good bands came through there, and we really, Die Monster Die, my horror band, always played with all the local punk bands. I mean, there was never no animosity or anyone holding me back, even though I was different at the time. And of course, the years roll by, and things are so much different now. Punk is sort of this accepted thing. Goth really got its thing going. I think people won't really relate to or think of Marilyn Manson when they think of goth music, but him and Rob Zombie, both those two, they built what they did on the backs of other bands like Bauhaus or My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, Ministry, those kind of things. Skinny Puppy. Sisters of Mercy would be another one. Did I mention them already? Anyway, that's what really what was the core of like the goth thing that was happening. Now you get to 1990. That's Nirvana's comes along. That's not punk. Green Day's not punk. It's not. It's what it is. I'm not knocking it. It's a different generation, but it's just not in my idea of what punk is. It's not. Some great shows happened from 1980 to 1990, and some of them were very important shows. Early on, I don't know how, I was looking back on it, we had a band called the Pink Godzillas, and this was in 1980. And I got us booked into all the clubs up in Milwaukee, Zach, Starship, and everything. And I know now they're making a documentary on Milwaukee punk called Taking the City by Storm. Well, this was kind of like another nostalgia lane thing for me, because I realized I know the people making the movie. We were in the same room together. We just never met, and basically I managed to get us into all those clubs where all this stuff was happening at the time, and there was amazing stuff happening because the real wave of punk was there. The bands like the Cramps, the Damned, and the Dead Boys all played at the Starship in the time that we were playing at the Starship. And of course, Zach's was another place, a really cool club that I think Iggy Pop and Johnny Thunders, all those bands played there. Really cool stuff. But notably, one of the biggest events was Wendell Williams, the Plasmatics, played at the Palms in Milwaukee. It was an incredible show to attend, and one of those things that'll shape your life and ideology about music for the rest of your life. Basically what happened is, well, Wendy Williams was really pushing the boundaries anyway. She had tape on her nipples and whatnot, and put shaving cream all over herself, and just had this crazy show. She sawed the guitar in half while it was plugged in with a chainsaw. And the guitar player was like 6'6" and wearing a tutu, a ballerina tutu with a big blue mohawk. They were amazing band, just amazing. She discharged, I think, a shotgun. Well, it probably had blanks in it, I'm pretty sure it did. Which, can you imagine someone doing that today with where our world is today? So that's just funny a little bit. But the Midwest wasn't ready for punk rock yet, and the police arrested her. She got beat up in the alley. That was it was a big court case, and it was national. That story went national news, and there I was part of that, and it was just an amazing show. They were an amazing band, and it was just an incredible time. A little bit scary though, because people didn't know what punk was like they do now. I'm sure everybody's used to seeing mohawks and colored hair in our time now. Back then it wasn't like that. People had a very negative attitude towards you. Even if we didn't really go out of our way to bother people. We just dressed funny. So that was the 80s, and in that time so much other stuff happened. Lord's of the New Church, I mean, there's so many cool bands came through Kenosha. I could go on and on. We get towards 89 now, and well, G.G. Allen, he played at the Odd Rock, and that was another big story with an arrest. I was at the show, and he got arrested, and some other people got arrested with him. And he was very much a punk rock show. And well, I'm not going to go into, no. I think they can Google G.G. Allen and find out how his show went. But anyway, then that ended up in an arrest in another national story. So to me, that kind of closes out the 80s. That closes out the original punk 10 years that I was part of, and that I think was really when it was the real deal. As we go into the 90s now, things start changing. I still have the band. I always had the band. But then I started doing haunted house stuff. And I started doing haunted houses at Jerry Smith's, and then I made a haunted bus that traveled. And we took it on tour and really got a taste of what that old sideshow lifestyle was like. And it was a lot of fun with 10 rooms in a haunted bus. They said, how can you get 10 rooms in that haunted bus? And I said, well, if they can get 8 great tomatoes in that little can, I can get 10 rooms in that haunted bus. So that was a great tour. We did Lollapalooza, we did Metal Mania, the Misfits came through that haunted bus, and we went on from 94 to 99 with that bus. Finally, it had to be retired. I still have it. It's at Jerry Smith's farm. In 2008, I got another bus and carried on from there. Well, now in between or somewhere in the storyline, I was approached to do a horror show on Channel 14 in Kenosha. David Spring at the time had wanted me to do it. He said he wanted to call me Dr. Destruction. And I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because I was really sick of the name Destruction because that went back to the older times that I told you about. But I had been so well known with the haunted houses and the band and being the scary guy in town that they thought that'd be a good idea for the sake of making the show popular. Well, we went on the air and it was immediately accepted, and it was a great thing. And that went on for a while until Dave moved out of town, and that's when Kenosha's Ralph Vampiro, we call him as a nickname. He took over as the director of the show, and he's been with the show all along. Ralph's a big monster guy like me. Has his own show, paying homage to the original Creature Feature, which is a great show. So we just clicked and we kept that going. And well, when I first started the Crimson Theater, I had just gotten divorced, and I was having a pretty good time, actually. And a lot of that intermixed with the shows. The shows could be pretty wild and rowdy and just maybe not as professional, but maybe too edgy. But I always liked the edgy horror hosts. Roly Poly Oly doesn't do anything for me down in Chicago. But so I like the edge. And anyway, so we went along doing that in the early days. And then I had people start coming up to me and they're like, well, we love your show. The grandchildren come over on Saturday night and they watch the show with us. It's like our family night. Well, I had to think about that for a minute, and I thought, you got to pull this back a little bit so that you walk the line so that the adults will get the jokes and the kids will go over the top of their head. And so I had to pull it back a little bit because that was really important to me. That was a deal changer with the show early on, is that families were watching the show, which I thought that deserved some attention then, and to keep that in my thoughts while I was doing it. So we went on like that, and again, trying to walk that line over the top, make sure the kids didn't know anything. And well, we've been showing movies. It's 18 years. We're in the 19th season now. And a lot of things happened. Did a lot of movies. Started out with Mortuary Girls by local director Mark Gumbinger. He brought me into that one, a few cameos, and we did a rock video. That was a lot of fun. Doing a film is a real interesting thing. So there was that film. And the other film that led me to it, and since we are right now in the studios, the Hub, that's what it's called, I believe, here at the library. The gentleman that directed the movie saw me come into the library with the hearse, and he wanted to put a horror host in his movie, and that movie's called Killing Poe. It's available, I believe, on Amazon and other platforms, but you really should see it. It's a solid film. I didn't know what I was getting into. They came to me, I think it was in 2011, and they wanted to meet with me, and they presented the idea for the script, and the storyline. And I said, well, yes, of course, I would love to be part of that. That sounds awesome. And so that all went well. And then there was the proverbial, well, we're waiting for the funding. Okay, anyone that's been in the entertainment business and hears those words knows pretty much what's up with that right there. In any case, they came back in 2013, wanted me to do a Kickstarter. They got the funding. We shot the movie in 2013, and the rest is history. Big film premiere in Chicago. It's a great movie, very much like a John Hughes film. It's a dark comedy, and I really recommend that you see it, not just because I'm in it, but it's really a good film. And they wanted to include a horror host in, which is a throwback to locally produced television, of yesteryear. Those shows were all done by somebody that was a weatherman or a anchor man at a station, or maybe just an editor. And so they had a real entertainment background. A lot of people that just think they can jump on board and do the horror host thing because it looks like it's easy and anybody can do it, which we live in a time when anybody can do it, obviously. But people without entertainment backgrounds, they're missing a little bit, because these guys weren't just ad-libbing, they weren't just off the street. There's a few that probably walked in the back door, but generally they had some profession behind them, professionality. They had entertainment background. Ernie Anderson out of Cleveland, probably the pinnacle for the Renaissance man who became a horror host. Later, Ernie Anderson ended up out in Hollywood with his partner Tim Conway, and he was the voiceover guy for ABC, for Love Boat and all that stuff. So that's where the premise of a horror host came. It seems to be widely popular and coming back in many ways right now. There's a lot of them out there, trust me. Well, I don't know. And then recently, I guess the band has changed over to what I call the Roosevelt Dolls. I've really got my perfect lineup, I think, right now for a band that I've always wanted. Larry Torres, who's been with me playing on and off for 40 years, him and I go back. You won't get anything more old school than Larry and I. And then we brought in Sherry Stouffer, who moved here from Illinois, and she's a piano instructor, and she learned all the rock songs, as well as acoustic set that we do. And then Christy Haven on drums. So that's real tight. We put out a CD recently. It came out in 2019, called The Secret Society of Gothic Demonica. Roosevelt Dolls is the name of the band. We're going in the studio soon to record a couple more songs, and one of them is called Caretaker Collins, and it's about a horror host that started up about a year and a half ago, or maybe a couple years ago now. And he was a guitarist in a band called Fiendish Phantoms, another rock horror band, perfect for us, that we love to play with them. And then Amsdell also is another band from Illinois that we love to play. If you go on YouTube and look up Amsdell, the song is called, they did a song about me called The Doctor Is In. Well, now we're going to record a song about Caretaker Collins, the horror host in the Madison area, a dedication to him. So just kind of interesting there, what's going on with our little circle here. Dorian Gray Art Show has been going on now. This is the 36th annual Dorian Gray Art Show is coming up. And that started out in 1984, around the same time that I told you that I was drifting away from the punk rock and doing the horror band thing. And I started doing black and white paintings of classic monsters. The picture of Dorian Gray is obviously a big influence. The movie from 1945 that stars Angela Lansbury and Herb Hatfield and George Sanders, based on the Oscar Wilde movie. The film is just a straight up art piece. They went over budget. They went out of their way to make really a solid art film. Fantastic stuff. Perfect inspiration for the Dorian Gray Art Show. Not to mention the Ivan Albright painting of the decrepit, aged, and sinful Dorian Gray that is in the Art Institute, by the way. So Albright's painting, all these great actors, great storyline, great film, all this together, totally awesome inspiration. Now, I've been asked too, am I a demonic person? Do I pray to Satan? No, that's not really what I'm into. And I'm not a big slasher film guy. I'm not really, those aren't really my era. I like the classic romantic gothic horror style films. Take something like Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, the original Dracula. You have these great storylines, and you have these fantastic, gigantic sets. They almost dwarf the actors. And then you have great actors like Lugosi and Karloff in these things. It's not something demonic I'm reacting to that I'm enjoying and I'm being drawn in. It's overwhelming creative presentation is what those films were. That's what did it for me. It was the art, and I got interested in art because of horror movies. So, and I've watched the evolution of the comic book turn into the graphic novel. I mean, these things that were once thrown away by parents or not allowed in schools, why a school would want anyone not to have something they would read is beyond me. But now we're at where we are, and our library has a wonderful selection of some of the best graphic novels that you can find right here at the Kenosha Public Library, by the way. And I'm here all the time. I love the place. It's a great place. We got to make sure we keep it going for sure. And I'll go on how up to date I am. Still doing the Crimson Theater. Another film's coming out. I Dream of Psychopomp, which is a fantastic film being done by Danny Villanueva Jr. from right here in Kenosha. It's an anthology film, and I am in a part, a vampire story. And it's a little part, but it's a good part because of the people that are in it. Jillian Libidley, she did a movie, she's a young child actress. She did a movie with Tom Hanks that Spielberg did. There's a picture of her. Ben Shaw was a male actor, he's in it as well. Male model, he's actor now. Very interesting man. And it's really an honor to be in the film with them. So that's coming out this spring. Again, I Dream of Psychopomp. So look forward to that. I did another short film with Danny Villanueva Jr. that you can find on YouTube. Just search Greg the Grouchy Gremlin, where I play a horror host, again. And that one's pretty cool. It's just a 10-minute little thing. I guess everybody should check it out. So I'm getting ready for the Dorian Gray Art Show, and I don't know, what didn't I cover? I'm thinking now. I'm sure I left some story out there. Oh, we won't get into the police escort out of Oshkosh. That was a long time ago.
One of the most important issues I think that we have in Kenosha is how to keep our young people here. How do we make it so that young people want to stay, want to be active in Kenosha, and actually succeed and prosper in our community? So that is a focus that I think we are looking at doing, and that's why we've started the process of the old Chrysler site and the redevelopment in the creation of Innovation Center. The Innovation Center is targeted to make a area into a entrepreneurial section of the community, which enables us to tie young people into the process. We help create mentoring systems. We help create financial packages. We end up bringing in companies like Microsoft, IBM, and other type of tech companies that come into the area that are looking for young people who are going to be the future of the community and future of the technology. So that is the aspect that we're looking at. So when we do this, we create the process so that people have the ability to succeed and move forward in our community. And that's the exciting part of what's going to happen at that Chrysler site.